Hi guys, welcome to the new and improved podcast We Evolve. My name is Shivani.
Sorry, my name is Diksha. My name's Selena.
And you're watching Disney Channel. Toot, 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 toot.
Okay. Anyways,
So, ladies, what are we going to talk about today?
we are talking about the struggles of being a first generation American.
Yeah. Also known as second generation immigrant. So, let's get started.
Yeah.
Number one, arguments. So, well, before we even get into the topics, let me let y'all know and put you on to a book that I read. How I even got this book. So, at the university that we go to,
Yeah.
I had an amazing professor, Marcela Garza. She was my Spanish professor, and we had so many conversations about what it's like to be a second generation immigrant in the States and how your parents have all these expectations on you, how you can argue with them, disagree with them, have your own struggle as you go through this vast and crazy world.
Yeah.
And it's not the same world that they grew up in. So what is that like?
Was she
And
also first generation American?
yeah, and she gave me this book, and it's a New York Times bestseller. I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica L. Sanchez. And basically, here, let me read y'all. I'm going to be taking a lot of excerpts from this book because it resonated with me so heavily. Actually, when I was reading this with someone, they were convinced that this book was being written about my life when in reality, it's someone from a completely different background. And while we all come from the same background, we might have different experiences. Someone from a completely different background as me might have the same experience, but we're going to find out. So, perfect Mexican daughters do not go away to college. They do not move out of their parents' house after high school graduation. Perfect Mexican daughters never abandon their families. But Julia is not your perfect Mexican daughter. That was her sister Olga's role. Then a tragic accident leaves Olga dead and Julia resembling the shattered pieces of her family. And no one seems to acknowledge that Julia is broken too. Instead, her mother channels her grief into pointing out every possible way Julia has failed. So that is just the first two paragraphs of the book summary. As I may have mentioned before, this is written by Erica L. Sanchez, also was a National Book Award finalist. Highly, highly recommend. So, to go into our first topic of arguments, I'm going to go into the book and read this part. This is a little long, but to give some context, they are going out shopping for a dress for Julia's quinceañera, her and her mom. And her mom says, "Remember, you're not the boss here. Why are you always making everything so difficult? Why aren't you ever happy? I try to do something nice and this is how you act? Dios mío, who would have guessed I would have had such an ungrateful daughter?" Amma is highly skilled in the art of guilt trips. She could win a golden medal. Jesus Christ, you don't buy me anything then. I go back into the dressing room and my eyes are already brimming. I try to wipe away the tears, but they keep coming and coming. I feel a sob traveling up my body and stop before it gets past my throat. I'm so frustrated, I don't know what to do with myself. Sometimes when I feel like this, I want to break things. I want to hear things shatter. My heart beats so fast and hard that I can hardly breathe. And I wonder if anything will ever get better. Is this really the way my life is going to be? And then here's a part that I feel like only the ladies might relate to, but I look at myself in the mirror one last time. I can't help it if my boobs are big. So, um, have to start off, have you ever dealt with body images growing up in this generation? If so, how?
Yeah, I have 100%. I think social media kind of makes people feel like that there's a perfect body type.
Yeah.
And if they're too skinny or if they're a little bit overweight, like it's not accepted. But that's not true. It's just people also know that people who post on social media, they edit their stuff, but still, it still gets to your head because that's what you're seeing on TV, that's what you're seeing on magazines, that's what you're seeing when you walk the streets. That's all you see. You see like the perfect girl or the perfect boy, like basically, you know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, like I've definitely faced like body image issues because I'm gonna be honest, when I was little, I wanted to be white so bad. Like I wanted to be white so bad. And I was convinced that Indian food, like you can't achieve
Yeah.
the goals or like you can't
Yes,
achieve the body type that
that
white
you
people have.
want because of the things that they put in Indian
Right.
food.
And so I used to be, it was like a lot of things. I used to be like, oh, I can't eat Indian food if I want to be skinny. So I used to, like, it was just a lot. So I definitely think I struggled with body image for a long time. And I still think I am kind of struggling, but it's definitely a lot better because now I do things for my body instead of looking at
What
other
makes you
people.
happy too?
And,
I
What
agree
about
with you.
you?
I just feel like it's so upsetting when you see it. Like a lot of things, like the doctor scale. How they have the perfect
right.
height, the
Mm,
weight, and you
hmm.
fall on that scale.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people.
I'm gonna tell you, we're not falling in that scale.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, I do think that they take it off of like
like
the
an average, yeah,
demographic,
like
but
an average.
it's mostly white
But
people
when
in
you
this
don't
Exactly,
country.
reach that
exactly.
demographic,
They're
like for
like,
example, average height is 4'11", or no,
no, it's
5'11",
yeah. I was like
5'11" for
five
males, for
eleven.
males.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
I
like
was
And
like
it's like,
five
I
six
could
for
tell you not a
5'6".
single person in
Yeah.
my family meets
Oh yeah,
that.
same. I'm
yeah.
I'm literally 5 foot. Like that's
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the whole like the way that even doctors do it is based off of like white people because that's what there's still a majority of white
yeah.
people in America. And like even for women, the average height is like 5'6", but if you go to like the Indian, if you go to India and look at the average height there, it's like 5'2".
Is she growing at a healthy rate, healthy height?
Yeah, and
You gotta
then
look at genetics for that.
yeah, and then same thing like with I actually have a family member that has a high cholesterol level, but that level is actually normal for brown people.
But
But it's not
yeah, in that
for
scale.
it's not in that scale. Like it's too high for that scale. So I don't know, I just feel like these kind of issues they do kind of pop up to a lot of immigrants just because they feel like they're not the norm.
Hmm.
Yeah, because they're not primarily what's being tested on. That's actually a lot of why there are mistreatments in, like, let's just say towards African Americans, especially with like skin conditions,
Yeah.
because when you try to spot for them, you can't do that with people that have more melanin. That's just one of the many, many, many
Right.
Yeah.
examples. That's a small level of a discrepancy and disparity between like
Yeah.
the huge gap between healthcare and equality. But that's just healthcare.
That's
Um,
just yeah.
and that's and to go back on the topic of body image, you mentioned that you are being compared in social media. How are you being compared by other people in your society? For example, you have the image of the perfect person in America, but even in India, it's like you have to be light skinned, you have to have straight, pitch black, thick hair,
Yeah, no,
Skinny,
long,
I
toned,
agree.
skinny. Can't
but
I
be
also be cultural and do everything else on that side.
Yeah,
exactly
I
like
mean
when
I
your
think
aunties see
Perfect.
you, it's
Yeah,
like, oh my God, you're so skinny. But
you
then
have
when
to
you
eat
eat,
more,
it's just like,
but
oh my
then
God,
you're
you're
like,
eating too much.
yeah.
exactly.
I
So it's
also
like make it make sense.
Yeah, I also think you can see the difference when it comes to Bollywood movies, and
Mm.
then you see Indians or just brown people in general acting here in Hollywood. Because
Hmm.
I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but there's like a lot of like TikTok and Instagram videos of like people in India when they're looking for like actors and actresses, they're looking for like light skin, tall, thick hair, all this kind of stuff. But then when it comes here to Hollywood, they're actually looking for like brown skin. They're looking for darker skin because it shows like ethnicity and like
Hmm.
you know what I mean. So I feel like you can see that change like here too. You can see that change back in India too. Like being compared to your
I think
what
India, yeah, I think India is doing a lot better with that now. But from so many years, like
Mm.
they're only doing that now. Like I've started
right.
to notice, like in South Indian movies, like instead of the lighter actor, it'd be more like a musky color person. She would be like the lead, and she wouldn't be like a comedian or anything. She would actually like have like a part
Like the
in the
funny
film.
side
Yeah,
character.
yes. So
But
it's like they're doing that stuff now, which is like, like we've had so much time to
yeah.
grow, and that's crazy. And it's crazy that the at least America started doing it before India,
Yeah. I
and
do
like
think
yeah,
I do think social media is now kind of getting more into the like accept all body types. But I remember when we were in high school or even middle school, it was not like that.
no,
Like
yeah,
there was a perfect body. Like you see a girl that's skinny, has muscle, has abs, like that is what every girl
yeah,
wants to be. And it's like now there's videos out there where it's like genetics plays a huge role, and people don't know that. People still that are like maybe are meant to have curves try to do something else and it doesn't work and they get kind of upset about it and that leads to mental health issues. But that's just like you're still pretty, you're still perfect in your own way. Like there is no perfect body type.
Yeah.
But and I do think social media is doing a better job of that now, but definitely took a while. And I do think that by the time this is happening, me personally, I have kind of gotten better myself. And I'm really glad social media is doing this, but I think I already it kind of came when I'm already done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But like again, like you said, it's coming while you're still young. So
Yeah.
it's like, and then for the future generations that
Yeah,
come
for the
along,
little kids,
Yeah,
like,
also
yeah, it's
like
gonna be better.
you see like middle schoolers now like struggling with the stuff we
hmm
struggled with like high school.
they're, dude,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Like, I know,
Like the
yeah.
greatest form of representation that I had as a kid was like Doc McStuffins, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
And then, well, you were saying
No,
something?
I mean, I've just heard from like social media and stuff, like little kids who are like 10, 11 are like, I'm so fat. And I'm like, what?
like you're just a
Yes.
I'm like, you're
kid.
a child. Like, don't be saying
No, but
that.
here's the sad part. I experienced that myself, probably at like 8 or 9. Because
Oh.
it's like that's what I mean. Especially like in the last part, it really dealt with that where the kid, or in this case Julia, she was like I can't help it because I come from a family with curvy women. Take that as you will. So it's like nothing really fits me right. And then
Yeah.
I swear, y'all are probably gonna laugh, but like, you know that one scene where, well, this scene happens all the time, but like when Hulk finally transforms into Hulk and he just like rips out of his
Yeah, yeah,
clothes,
yeah.
that was me every time I would put like a little chitty dot on. Like none of them would fit because they would fit my lower half of the body, but then as soon as it came up to around here, just it was just I looked like the Incredible Hulk and nothing would fit me. And so and I couldn't help it. And so especially like and the point of that particular excerpt is not only body image but also feeling a lack of control because
Hmm.
your parents are controlling like how you eat, talk, breathe, walk, how your hair looks like, how your clothes look like,
hmm
who you're gonna speak to,
hmm
and it's very debilitating. And it makes you want to cry.
So can I ask a question? So
Yeah.
the part you read in the book, is she complaining, like, is the mom complaining about like how her boobs look in the dress? Or like is
Why she
that
doesn't like the dress.
she doesn't like the dress because her
Because it's
okay.
like she this is a very low income family.
hmm
And I think the father works in a factory and then the mother works by cleaning houses and so the idea of having a quinceañera for her is
Itself was like
it's
big.
a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money that they're spending and so it's like they expect her to be grateful. She doesn't even want this party in the first place. It's like nobody asked Julia, okay, what do you want?
Yeah.
And because her sister died in the movie, or not the movie, sorry, in the book. I don't know if they should make a
Dude,
movie
yeah,
about this,
lucky.
but I don't know if they have. I should look it up. But in the book, um, nobody ever asks her, okay, what do you want?
hmm
They're doing it as a way to make up for the fact that they never gave Olga, her older sister, a quinceañera. They regret that. They're giving one for Julia.
So doing it for
Right.
wow.
And so it's that feeling of not only regret and sorrow,
The guilt. Yeah,
depression,
dude.
grief,
Yeah.
hard work from the parents, but it's like also, well, yeah, she's dealing with the guilt as well because
She
it's
doesn't
like,
want to disappoint.
oh, one, I don't want to discipline my parents. Two, you're spending all this money on me. But three, I don't even want to do this in the
Hmm.
first place.
hmm
Have you guys ever been in that situation where your parents are spending a lot of money on you for
I
something that
I
you don't
have.
even want?
I mean, I don't not exactly money,
Not to
but it
sound like a
could be
brat. Oh
for
my God,
me.
daddy's spending so much money on this Mercedes that I don't even want. Like,
No, not like that. I don't think for me personally, like I've been in situations similar where maybe my parents do something for me or want to do something for me, which I'm so grateful for, but that's not really something I'm interested in. And I have this like kind of like I don't want to do that, but then I also need to be grateful because they're doing this. And then it's like in your head, these two emotions that are opposite are like fighting. And it's like, what do
hmm
you say? Because like you feel bad for saying it, but then you also don't want it.
I mean, you're doing the whole thing for you, but nobody, it's ironic because nobody ever asks you, oh, how do you want it?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
even want it?
And then
It's,
you feel like I don't want it, but I don't want to say no and disappoint them.
Because in reality, they're really doing it for themselves or doing it for the sake of society, but it's
Right.
like, it's for you. It's like,
Right.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like, it also goes into the whole argument where it's like, I came to this country for you. Yeah, and I'm really grateful for that.
yeah,
But I cannot be the only reason that you came to this country
Right.
for.
exactly.
There must have been something else.
Have you gone through
Have I?
something similar like that?
Yeah, all the time. And it's probably, oh, it was really bad when I first went vegan. So I'm vegan and I went vegan for a medical condition. And sometimes like when the beginning my parents would get me like this burger or like because they were just going out and they wanted to get something to eat. We didn't have any food at home. And so they got something like that or they got something. And I'd be like, I can't eat this. And so they're like, why are you being so ungrateful? We just spent all this money to get you this food and you don't even want to eat it? It's like, I can't. And then sometimes it's like, it's a between either you can't or you just don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
So I've dealt with
And it's
things like
also,
that.
it's like talking back, I think.
Yes.
When you say no, they're like, you're talking back to me, like you don't like
Who gives you the
respect what I
permission to have
say.
an opinion?
Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, can I not like say what I want to do? Like it's not,
Yeah.
yeah,
So another going deeper into that
yeah.
is like you feel that you don't have the right to have an opinion because of the guilt of your parents' hard work.
Mm-hmm.
So on page 273, this is the part where Julia is sent to Mexico after she tries to commit suicide. This is a very sensitive topic. But afterwards, she's talking to an aunt of hers, and her aunt says, or she says to her aunt, "You don't understand, Tia. I try. I really do. We're just so different." And they're talking about her and her aunt are talking about the relationship between her and her mom. Her aunt saying, "Please be good to your mom."
Mm-hmm.
She's saying, "You don't understand. I try. I really do. We're just so different." She thinks I'm wild and crazy, but what I want makes sense to me. I want to be independent. I want to be my own person with my own life. I want to make my own choices and mistakes. And she wants to know what I'm doing every second of the day. It makes me feel like I'm drowning. Ay, mija, there's so much you don't understand. Why does everyone say that to me? I know I'm young, but I'm not stupid. That's not what I mean. It's that your mother has had such a hard life. You can't even imagine.
Okay.
You can't
That is
even
probably
imagine.
like such a relatable
You
like
can't even
Yeah.
little
Why she picked like
thing
that
from
part?
Okay,
Oh my
if I
gosh.
can't imagine, tell me what happened.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Let
kind of
me
like
know. I'm
it,
not saying that to be a brat. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to know what she went through. Tell me. Why does everything have to be a
Can't
secret?
Yeah.
I also think that like people who have been through like doesn't matter how much detail you say about your experiences, sometimes unless the other person has been through it, they don't understand.
Right.
They think that we're just being like ungrateful, but it's like
That's probably how
you
the parents
haven't
feel too.
right because
It's like,
like
you
you
can't even
haven't
imagine.
experienced it, so like,
You
you
don't
don't
know.
understand. But I that line is so relatable. Like I think that our parents, I think this also comes down to the whole idea that I'm not really sure about other cultures or ethnicities, but I know in Desi families, there's no concept of leaving the house at 18 or leaving
Oh,
the
yeah.
house at 21.
Yeah.
And
Or
I
leaving the
think,
house until you're married.
right. And sometimes some parents even, they even want their kids to live
Oh
with
yeah,
them.
that's exactly what happened with my family. So my dad lived with his parents or my grandparents for the entirety of his life. He ended up getting a house and they moved right in with him
Hmm.
immediately. Then he got married and my mom moved in. They were still there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't leave until I was like 16.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
They were there like my grandmother raised me. And
Wow.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love my grandmother to bits and pieces. She's like
Yeah.
my mama. But
Mm-hmm.
But coming back to like what
I
we were
can't
saying,
I can't imagine how that must have made my father feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, cause
yeah,
he's like, I feel like I can't do anything because
right.
my mom is always
Your parents
there.
Yeah,
And then I guess if you translate that to today's day and age, it's like, well, you got trackers on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
right. I think, I think like from our parents' perspective, they're probably here like, I want to protect my daughter or my son.
Yeah.
I want to show them, I want to tell them my experiences so that they don't have the same. But for us, it's kind of like
Like, you don't know what I'm
you got
going
the
through.
opportunity to learn all this stuff, to
Let
learn
me
it from
learn.
experience. Let me learn it. So I think that you guys have all heard the saying that Indian people want their kids to be doctors, engineers, business, or like CS. And I think that our parents have it in their head from like when we were like babies, and they're like,
Mhm.
this kid is gonna be a doctor, and then you go visit your grandparents, whatever, and they're all like, oh, are you gonna treat us when you're doctors? Like, and it's like this predetermined thing,
Mhm.
which is totally fine, that's fine. But then it's not like when you get to college, they give you the opportunity to go and actually choose what you want. And if someone like pretend we all are pre-med, but pretend I decided that I didn't want to do pre-med. And I mean, I think all of us are pre-med out of our own will at the same time. Like we all, oh,
Kind of, yes and no. Do you want me to go into it? Because you're making a point right now.
yeah, let me finish and then
Yeah.
we'll go. But what I was saying was if, for example, I want to be a professor. Before I even make that decision, I would have to spend weeks convincing my parents
Years,
to
your
even let me
lifetime.
do that.
Oh yeah.
And then it's kind of like, where's my life? Like, I feel like I'm just a little piece of property that you're kind of like, do this, do this,
Game
do
of
this, do
life.
this.
It's the game of life.
Yeah,
They
and
like
then
play with you like a pawn.
it's kind of like, you know what? Like, I don't want to do something I'm not passionate about
Mhm.
because I'm not going to do well in that.
Exactly.
And they just don't accept it. They're like,
No,
it doesn't
you're gonna do
matter.
well. It's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't
You
matter.
got it. Don't
It's
say
okay.
that before trying it.
I've seen dumber people than you make it.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. I just think that really gets to a lot of.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that somebody else has told me that.
I just think that it gets to a lot of people's heads because it's kind of like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think a lot of brown people have even explored options
Yeah.
outside of those sports
It's
because
like you do it your
yeah,
whole
like
life, you know?
you don't, and also not just your parents, because a lot of parents are like that. You don't like I don't think I've met a person that's not those four. I don't think I've met a brown person that's not one of those four careers.
Oh my God, you're right.
So it's kind of like they
I
also feel pressure from their friends that are like, oh, like they're doing this, this, and this. Like I can't go and do something else.
So I will disagree with you on this one. And I say this because we come from a different background.
Okay.
So, well, two things. One, I'm pre-med, but it's like, okay, so I was like, all right, so neurologist or cardiologist, what do you like? Those are your options. And I'm like, okay, so what about forensic pathologist? Or dude,
Here's
okay,
the
so
I
some
can
context. What a forensic pathologist does is they're essentially like a medical examiner or somebody that performs autopsies as doctors and determines the cause of death of a patient.
corners, right?
Yeah, kind of, but
And before you get into that, your
yeah.
parents are not pre-med.
No.
So
My parents didn't even go to college.
when
Like,
you asked this question, did they even know what that was before they said no to you?
I mean, okay, so my mom went to college in India, but she went
Mhm.
to specifically nursing school.
Okay.
So my mom
Okay.
knew, like, she's in healthcare. She's a
Yeah.
nurse. She knows what a forensic pathologist
Okay.
is. My dad's like, I didn't know. Like, that's just, what is that? Is basically what that
Yeah.
means. Forensic pathologist? Like, what is this? And so, or psychiatrist.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, oh my
You
God.
want to sit around and read and do it crazy?
Yeah. Wait, I fully wanted to be a
That is not
psychiatrist.
okay.
I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
I remember.
I was like, that was my goal, like in high school. Like I was like, I want to do something psychiatry. I want to like I was so interested in mental. I mean, like, why are we doing Reevolve? Like, this interests me.
Right.
And then I get into college, and my mom's like, okay, you should think about doing something like surgery related. Like,
yes,
like,
surgery.
she's so open to me doing anything I want. It is my life. She's completely content with that. But
I think she has the most chill parents here.
my parents are very encouraging in what I want to do in life. And, like, they're literally what I say is, like, they're like, okay, like, they're fine with it. But I did want to do psychiatry for a really long time. It's still a career, a choice in my head, but I was kind of pushed to more like surgery, do
It's like you're
something.
subconsciously just
Yeah.
like geared toward
It's like,
there.
Yeah.
Mom, I want to
Because
be an artist. That's great. And
you can
the
draw
scalpel
here.
is your toothbrush.
You can draw
And the
Saturdays
fiction
and
is your
Sundays.
canvas.
You can draw Saturdays and Sundays while you work Monday to
Yes. Yes, that's true.
You can
Um,
draw in your head, Mole, in your head.
make some time in the morning, an hour a day, just draw on a piece of paper.
That's your little hobby. Go home, do that.
Yeah.
But work a 9 to 5 job.
Yes.
And do that.
And make sure it's pre-med.
Because they just like care about you and they want you to be financially stable and they want you to be financially set up.
Right.
But like if it's not exactly what they imagine, they're gonna flip out.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I'm a pre-med, however, and I genuinely care about the well-being and the of my patients if I were to really go into that. That's why I was like, all right, I'll do it, because at the end of the day, I'm helping people. That's my goal. That's been my goal since day one.
Exactly.
How am I going to affect the world in a positive way? Be a productive member of society. And I am slowly trying to get more and more opportunities to learn about the field. I'm not just going to be like, ew, no, I don't want to do that. Like, we'll learn about it first. So that's my thing. And then when I chose the major of economics, my parents almost flipped out. They're like, what? So you want to be homeless is what I'm hearing. Like,
Oh my God.
no. But yeah, they're like, so what does that have to do with pre-med? Pre-med, pre-med, pre-med,
Yeah.
pre-med.
They're like bio,
Med.
psychology, everything.
That's like
Right,
that's
right,
all I
right,
want to
right.
hear from you.
Yeah.
And so one time I mentioned to my parents that I might be interested in public health.
Oh, nah. It's done.
You want to work to help other people?
Like, do you even want to work
But
when
like,
you
is
grow
that not
older?
what doctors do? What's your point? Like,
Yeah.
I think there was
It
this...
only counts if you're cutting people open.
No,
Like,
like they were like I think there was this comedian, I think it was like Ronnie Chang, and then he was like, why Asian parents want their kids to be doctors, and it's like helping people is the bottom of the list of reasons. It's like, get that out of the way for the real reason.
I'm gonna be honest.
The money and the prestige.
It's money.
That's
It is
what
money
he
and
said
prestige.
almost word for word, and I'm like, yes.
Wait, is this the guy on TikTok where he's like he's Indian?
No,
Okay.
he's also on the Daily Show. He also makes
Oh, shoot.
appearance
Okay,
there,
never mind.
and he's a stand-up comedian. Highly recommend.
Okay.
Highly recommend. But along the lines of those topic of expectations, um, it's the theme where when you have that burden that weighs on your shoulders, they not only make it an option for you to be successful, they make it a necessity. You need to be successful for the sake of our grandchildren and then their children, because it's not, our bloodline's not all going to end with you. And I was discussing this with a friend, and he's like, your storyline, your generation storyline is crazy. Because when you think of my grandmother, she did not get to have an education, doesn't know how to read or write in English, doesn't really know how to speak in English as fluently as we do, obviously, and came to this country and worked as a maid. She worked every day, did not have a functional car when it was raining, snowing, sunshine, doesn't matter. She would have to walk. Grandfather would have to bike. We did not come from fancy, rich, amazing means. My father, like you could think of like women's reproductive health, you could think of women's rights, none. And then you think of well, there's also a 10-year age gap between my grandmother and my grandfather. Think about that.
Wait.
Think about
well, I mean, I do
her
think that was
opinion.
so common, like in
her,
that time period.
That's crazy.
but like her values and her opinions
Yeah.
didn't matter
Yeah.
at all, because nobody thought of her as anything but somebody that's just there to make babies. That's it. And then you look at my father's life, who he didn't really get the chance to go to college. He didn't get the chance to graduate high school on time. He didn't get the chance to do a lot of very important things. And so, like, you grow up around brown people where it's like, oh, I've only known them to have one of these four occupations. Because we come from different backgrounds, like I've known people that were maids, that were dishwashers, that were storekeepers, and it's different. And so then now you look at my timeline. I'm going to college. I have my own apartment.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I'm getting not just an education, higher education.
Yeah.
That is insane. To look at the difference between my life and hers.
Crazy.
I would have been married by now with my first kid either on the way or second kid on the way if I was in that situation. So
Yeah.
that's why it is essential for you to be successful so we can keep it going. She gave me the ball. Now I'm going to have to give my kid the ball. And in order for me to do that, I got to be successful. And
I agree, but I feel okay, so here's my take on
Yeah.
this whole how
Like, I'm not saying,
success.
like, that's just their mindset.
Right. I'm agreeing with you. I'm just explaining how we feel about it when
Yeah.
they're like, I just
It's
think
hard.
that our parents view success as money and reputation. But like I view success as in the future, like I'm gonna be happy with what I'm doing. And that whole factor is kind of thrown out when parents are like, you need to be successful. They're just saying that you need to make money and you need to have reputation. Like in their head, it's like, I want you to be a doctor because I want to go tell my friends
Yes.
my daughter's a doctor. It's kind of like that.
Mhm.
But it's like you could be the most unhappy doctor. You could be facing your own mental health issues. Everything's kind of just, it goes through one ear, comes out the other for
Yes,
them.
that's saying, bruh.
For them, I do understand that they came from India and they came from a generation where no one gave a shit about mental health. What was mental health? Everyone's facing mental health. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Deal with
You'll
it.
get over it, or you need to have a stronger mind. They
Which,
have a weak mind.
exactly, which is why I think that our parents or brown parents kind of overlook mental health and don't think of it as important. And if we're like saying like we're facing mental health issue or you're going through depression, they're kind of like you're just weak. Like you
Yeah.
don't get it. Like we struggle so much to get here. But
Yes.
it's like we are struggling. It might not be like
like, oh,
getting
you think
visas. It
you
might
have
not be trying to get a job. It's the pressure. It's pressure from school. It's the pressure from trying to be a doctor, an engineer, a CS person. It's the pressure of all brown people are smart. It's the pressure of brown people can do anything. But it's like, no, like we really have to work so hard to do that.
Yes.
And then it's also like pressure from your parents where it's like, if you're not doing this, then you're not good enough. Like you're
Yeah.
throwing your reputation away. Like what are you
You're
doing?
wasting your time, your education, the opportunity.
Yeah, you're wasting the opportunity. We did so much work to come here. You're given it's
Yeah.
easy for you and you still can't do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like
Like, we handed you the key. Why
Yeah.
can't you open the door?
Yeah.
yeah.
What if it's not the door I want to open?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I just think that's another really big reason why a lot of immigrants face mental health issues just from pressure.
And it's like they're facing the issues, but they keep it so like
Private.
private.
Because
Like
it's
they
so
have
taboo to talk about it.
And then if someone like passes away to suicide or something, they're like, "Oh, I wonder what was the reason." They think it's like
Yes.
external factors. They don't think it's like truly
Right.
like what that person like is,
Exactly.
So
And then it's also like what could be so bad
yeah,
he
yeah.
had to he had to do
Yeah.
suicide. But it's like you don't understand. You
Yeah.
don't understand what people are facing
Yeah.
like in the society.
Exactly.
It's like people face pressure from everywhere. Getting
Social
a
life,
job,
yeah,
social
everything.
media, parents, friends. There's like pressure everywhere. And yeah, while I do understand that they didn't get a chance to talk about it, like this is how we feel. Like there's nothing we can do about it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like people are a lot of the suicide happens because they can't get help. And the reason they can't get help is because they feel like it's embarrassing to talk about.
Or they're gonna get shunned, or like
Because no one's actually going to be there to support them.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they're just gonna be like, suck it up. Like we sucked it up. Like it's not that hard.
Speaking of, we sucked it up. What struggles do you think your parents had to go through to get you where you are?
education. I feel like that was such
I'm
a
gonna
big
be
thing.
honest. I think my parents, well, I'm sure all of our parents, but I'm saying my parents because I like know them. I'm sure my parents are like way more mentally stronger than I am because I know how much they've struggled to get where they are. Also, my parents didn't come from like a rich family in India too. So my dad, like, he went to like a government school. He was like what like top the top three or whatever in that school. And then he himself, like he did everything. He was teaching like he was doing tutoring while he was in college. He made money and then he bought my grandparents their first car. Like there was no car before that.
Yeah.
There was like
That was
bicycles.
The scooty.
the little
And
scooty.
not even scooties. We didn't even have
Oh,
scooties. They were
really?
bicycles.
Oh my god.
So like you didn't have that like that family like how in America
Like
you have a
the-
family car, you have
yeah,
the
yeah.
family scooty.
You don't
like
have that?
You have a family bicycle.
Oh,
yeah, really? Like
shoot.
you with the pedals and stuff?
Right.
No, little
Yeah, my dad bought the first bike.
Wow.
Shout out.
And then it's like I understand that he worked so hard to get here,
Hmm.
and obviously like all the visa stuff. And then on top of that, my dad has two younger siblings, so he was basically like their father and like pushing them to like go to
Yeah.
school, pushing his brother to get into better schools because he had to go to like a public school. And then, like public schools and private schools are a little bit different in India.
Yeah.
And people prefer private schools in India, where I know here people prefer public schools.
It really depends.
I think the majority of people here prefer public schools
Because
though,
it's like a different
because it's
lifestyle,
not
right?
just, it's not,
It depends on who you are, like,
right.
and the opportunities and the demographic where you live.
Yeah.
It's very nuanced.
That's true.
But I think like obviously they came here, they worked here, like there's no one here that they know. Their parents are not here. They're making some of their friends are here, some of their friends are not here, but even if their friends are here, are they all living in the same state? Like we don't like, people are kind of scattered. And then he went back to India, he married my mom, and then they came and started working, and then it had me like 5 years later. But like I understand where he's coming from. I understand that he was very, very strong to get here, and I'm sure that you guys have had similar experiences with your parents.
Yeah.
But
My dad came here when he was 10.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm not,
Wait.
I'm 1.5. I'm not
Oh,
1. It's weird. It's weird. He came here when he was like 10 or 11.
Okay.
Well, first, we'll finish your thought,
Yeah.
and then we can go into what your parents
Yeah.
went through, if it's like anything similar to hers.
and then yeah, and then so I understand where they're coming from that we did so much stuff to get here, and you're already here. We're here to support you.
They got us like past the first step.
Yeah, like
You
we're
know?
here, we're already here to support you. Like you just have to go to college. We're paying for your tuition. We're paying for your
Yes.
dorm fees. Like
Yeah.
all you have to do is study.
Yes.
But it's
It's like, so you didn't have friends growing
sometimes
up. You didn't want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
and then it's sometimes like me personally, like school's fine for me. Like the stuff I deal with is not academic. Like when I feel like when I feel anxiety or I feel depressed, it's 90% not academic. It's pressure that's not coming from school. It's coming from the people I surround myself with, whether that be my family, whether that be my friends. But I just think that our parents are the times are different. The things that people go through now probably didn't exist at the same rate as they are now because there's different things. First of all, social media is a big thing that induces so many mental health issues. That's like an
but
incubator for
it
mental health
depends on how
issues.
you use it. It could either be your biggest problem, your greatest tool, or both.
Mhm.
Right.
Depends on how you use it.
I mean, my dad literally went through a similar experience as yours. I'm literally like he studied super well. Like his focus was education. He had 5 siblings. And so he was
Are you
like
the oldest?
he was second youngest.
Oh,
But
okay.
his dad passed away. So they all ended up moving and he would have to like, manage everyone. And like it includes everything, like getting your sisters married,
Yeah.
getting like just managing the house.
Sorry to
Yeah,
go
because
off.
also in Indian
Yeah.
culture, women get married before men.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
your sisters get married before, even if you're older, your younger
Yeah,
sister will
your
still
younger
get
sister, you
married
have to make
first.
sure everyone gets married first before you start.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, well, my dad's just the youngest, so it just worked out.
Yeah.
But did not know that.
Typically, yeah. So he focused on all that, married my mom. I mean, he came to America, married my mom, and then came back to America, and then he's been here since. But that's his journey. But with like careers and stuff, like I can't say that my dad has been like very like you have to do this or you're like I'm disappointing you. I did all this for you. Like he's very like supportive. I think we all came from like different backgrounds. Like he's like whatever makes you happy, you should do. Like whatever you want to do. And I was very like I want to do medicine. I want to become a doctor. I want to help people. So that's my story though.
I think
Nice.
sorry.
No, you're good.
I think going back to her saying the whole medicine thing, with me, my parents weren't really ever like, you have to do medicine, but it was like a silent
Like a
geared toward
subconscious thing.
medicine. And they've always been like, we support anything you do. Like,
Mhm.
I model, and that's so taboo in like brown like culture. And my dad 100% was like, go for it. Like if you're getting the opportunity, go for it. And so my parents have also supported everything I do. But let me tell you a little experience I had. All throughout high school, I was pre-med.
Hmm.
Oh,
First year of college, pre-med.
Oh, our high school was
And then,
geared towards careers.
right,
yeah.
yeah.
So you could be pre-med since high school. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
all three of us were.
Yeah.
And first fall semester freshman year, I dropped pre-med and I went finance. And so 2 months into me dropping pre-med, going finance, I realized I actually want to do pre-med. Like I actually like pre-med. And then I kind of realized that I actually in my what I was 18 at the time,
Yeah.
in my 18 years, I just realized I want to do pre-med. But
Yeah.
for the last 18 years, someone has been pushing me to do like I was
Yeah.
pushed into it. Whether it be like you do it, you have to do it, or if it was just like we want you to be doctors, or my aunts and uncles like, oh, you're gonna be a doctor when you grow. Those things like but it was literally it's been what a year since I realized myself I want to do pre-med. And then I, switched back and everything and I like where I am right now. But it's just crazy to think about at 18 years old, I finally realized that I actually want to do it out of my own interest.
I feel like you and me kind of went through like the majors and changing that because I came in here as a bio major. And literally, I think it was like I started rethinking like, do I really just want to major in bio and like try pre-med and everything, or do I actually want like I'm super interested in like the business side at least.
Yeah.
So I was like, do I want to do something like that? Like maybe be a physician for a little and then jump into more like the management side. So I switched my major to business major. So currently I'm a business major on the pre-med track and I'm so happy like what I'm doing right now. Like I feel like content. And
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out.
And that's okay. I mean,
you
like it's
I don't.
yeah, you do. I feel like college is always about exploring and like,
Everybody
figuring out.
says that.
okay.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what my pre-med advisor said to me. She's like, "You have time," and I'm like, "All right, let me be realistic with you. I have 2 more years here,
Okay.
right? 2 more years where let's just say I fulfill my economics, like it's or like because I've been economics from day one and I've been pre-med from day one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like if I'm gonna pick something, I'm gonna stick to it.
Okay.
And um I've already put in 2 years. If I back out now
Yeah.
and pick something else that is unrelated or different, or if I drop pre-med, all the work that I've done
The
means
science
nothing.
classes.
And that means that I'm gonna have to pick something else,
Mhm.
and that's probably maybe even 2 more years added onto this.
Mhm.
Or let's just say I do pick pre-med. Then I'm gonna need to build up the qualifications just to get into med school starting yesterday. Not even now. Yes, like 2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
And so not only that, I have to study for the MCAT. I have to
Mhm.
get volunteering hours. I have to get shadowing hours. I have to get research hours. I gotta solve world hunger and cancer at the same
You have to get a
time.
publication, you have to do this and that.
I have
Just
to
so
get
many requirements.
certifications,
Yeah, yeah.
and I have to do all the science classes.
Yeah.
And then that's not including the actual application and cycle process, which is like, no, there's not part one. There's multiple parts to this. And then there's interviews. And then, oh, it doesn't end there. Wait, it gets better. There's residency. And then, oh, it's like by the time you become a doctor and you actually get a job, how old will you be?
It'll be like 30 plus. I'm not gonna lie,
Exactly. So it's like, where do you find the time? Because I don't see any.
yeah.
I mean, I guess like that is the
Or
good thing about America. Like I feel like you have
free will?
no, I just think that like, there's so many ways that you can switch.
Or do your master's and during your master's take a gap year and then from there apply. There's
That's
so
like
many opportunities,
that is
you
like
know?
the one
Yeah.
thing that I love about this country is that doesn't matter what age you are, doesn't matter what like it doesn't
The
I mean
door's never
obviously like
closed.
yeah, like you can always switch what you're doing. But
Yeah.
go to India, this is not possible.
So
Right.
So Julia has to lie every time that she goes outside the house. It's for a group project. Oh, I'm hanging out with Lorena. It's for different reasons.
It has to be like
you
productive.
have to. I have to get this done. You
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to let
yeah.
me out of the house because I have to get this project done. I don't have
Yeah.
a choice.
Right.
And then the mom's like, okay. Same thing with me. I was not allowed outside of the house unless it was for work. Like by the time I was a senior, I had 3 jobs. And
I
so
remember you also wouldn't you also kind of convince your parents if you could go to like HOSA stuff.
Oh yeah.
And
Wait,
also,
it's
for
required.
context,
Not know any of this.
Alina was like a state leader, right?
State
Is that what it's called?
officer.
State officer. State officer, and she's
Sigma has been. That name means nothing.
no, but she was
It means
amazing.
everything.
Like
I
she
have
had
a
a crazy.
I have a deep respect
What
for
was
the
it?
organization.
Aim for Abraham.
Like,
Not
so love y'all. Actually, you guys
Wait,
just
I ate at that conference. I love that one. I was like,
yeah, no, she did really well. But it's like it's almost like your parents and I
No,
remember
but that's what I'm saying. Like you two in these 5 seconds gave me more support than my parents did in
what?
my entire life. Like that's another thing that people don't understand is that
There is no appreciation for the good stuff. It's always
There's-
about
they're
what
like,
you
okay,
didn't do.
and
okay,
Yeah,
but
or
like
what's next?
my
Go do
parents
this.
don't support like or like didn't support and probably still to this day, not to bash my parents, love my parents, and they support me in many different ways, like financially, with food, with
Yeah.
clothes. I appreciate them for that and I'm grateful to them for that. But then on the more existential things or like the more hypothetical things like dreams, nobody knew like in my family that I was even applying to be a state officer because I didn't want them to crush my dreams. And then by the time they came to the conference to pick me up, coach like was patting my dad on the back and he's like she's like, "Are you so proud of what your daughter
And
did?"
Julie's
He's like,
so
"What?"
he did not
He
know.
had no idea.
Oh my
Oh
god.
And then
my
like
And then like what did you get in trouble for that?
he he was too proud to be mad at me.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
But
well
then
I'm glad that he was happy
he was
about
happy
it.
Because
in the
I know,
moment,
like,
in the moment because it's
okay.
like, okay, that position must mean something
Yeah,
because
yeah,
your
yeah.
teacher's telling me about it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Now I gotta get involved
Yeah,
and
because
I
they're
gotta give you
dropping. That's how,
rides.
yeah.
And that's why I always got rides with other people. And then because like for them to show up at events, for them to ask me about things, for them to help me, it was like impossible.
Mm.
Not really as common. Like I said, you guys were more proud about the position than my parents ever were. The only reason why they were ever proud is because it's like, oh, it's something that I can brag about.
Right.
And it's um like for example, the suit. They didn't pay like the official uniform.
Oh,
They
yes,
didn't
yes,
pay
yes.
for it. Alliance Academy did.
Oh,
Alliance Academy reimbursed me for my suit.
wow.
And that's just an example. And I'm grateful to Alliance Academy for doing that because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have a uniform.
Yeah.
So we're just out
We just-
here telling
we
our
just
school
dropped
life.
it.
But like we don't go there anymore, so I mean,
Yeah, I
That's
guess.
true.
but like that's my point. And so I guess to go all the way to a different topic. Well, it says to finish this one off, it says I don't understand why everyone just complains about who I am, what I'm supposed to do, say I'm sorry. What am I supposed to do? Say I'm sorry? I'm sorry I can't be normal. I'm sorry I'm such a bad daughter. I'm sorry I hate the life that I have to live. And then it goes down to sometimes I feel so lonely and hopeless. I don't know what to do. Usually I just bottle up all my feelings and wait until my parents go to sleep so I can cry, which I know is totally pathetic. So, going back to what we said way before, where it's like, you feel like you can't go to your parents for support, whether it's for your dreams or for your emotions.
Mm.
Oh, you don't know what's going on with somebody because they bottle it up inside. They can't go to their parents and they have to let all their emotions out on their own time because they have to let everyone else
secret.
know, oh, I'm strong, I'm good, don't worry about me.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody that you have to worry about because I know you already got a bunch of other things that you need to worry about. Plus, even if I did come to you, what are you gonna say?
I think that also kind of like it kind of represents how not just pressure from our parents, but actually pressure from ourselves because we were like our parents did so much for us and we feel guilty that
We
we're
feel
not doing
obligated.
we're not well, I think that we feel guilty that we're not doing
Mm.
enough to make whatever sacrifice they did worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah,
Because we're
yeah.
like we're just going to school. Like we're not working 6 jobs. Like we're not like getting represented, we're not getting like recognition by the president. Like we're not doing all these things that so are we actually making them proud? And then
Right.
that's kind of also
We're not living up to their standards.
and then you bottle that up and then it's like sometimes even when you want to talk about that with other people, they're kind of like they just don't get it. Like they don't
Like, oh, this
understand.
person said something mean to me. It's like, oh yeah, well, when I was growing up, this person did, and it's like, well, now, like, or it's like, why are you even sad? What? Why do you care? What does that have to do with anything? Did you do
Right.
good in school today? Like that's the
Yeah.
whole conversation.
But
And
I do think I personally struggle with that. I feel sometimes that the things I'm doing, it's not enough to make what my parents did, what my parents sacrificed to get here. Like it doesn't make their sacrifices worth anything because I feel sometimes I'm just doing the bare minimum.
mm,
But if you think about like people who think like that, like me personally, like if you genuinely think about the stuff I'm doing, like I'm studying to be a doctor, like one day I'm gonna become a doctor. Like that's something to be proud of, but it's hard for us to be proud of it because we feel
you're not
it's
looking
so
at the big
normal.
picture.
Like it's not that
You're
serious. Like
looking at the here and now.
yeah. So I think that's something I struggle with. I think that's actually something that a lot of people struggle
Honestly,
with.
I feel like that's also like, and this is like off topic, but I also feel like this is like, it's also like pre-med like toxicity. I'm not gonna lie. Like people are very like they're doing this, and then you're like, oh, I'm not even doing any of that, and then you
Well, I mean,
feel like,
I kind of disagree. I think just because we're in pre-med, like we only know people that are pre-med, and we kind of, I mean, like we do know business people, but we don't know them like we know pre-meds. Like we don't know what they're genuinely doing or like
oh
how.
yeah,
So
for
it's like,
sure.
but like I have like my roommates are business, and
Mm.
then like they're business and CS, and I can like I also see it in them too. Like I see the same characteristics in them, and so then it just kind of brings it back to just not feeling like you're living up to the expectation that sometimes you set yourself.
Yeah, I feel like that's what a lot of like each career field has like, their struggles and
Yeah,
everything, each like community,
right.
the business, the that's the
Yeah.
everything, the
On the
dance.
on the topic of like feeling like you're not enough, even though you feel like you're not enough for your parents, like there's a lot of cruel and funny ironies that kind of play along throughout the topics that we go through. This is
Mhm.
one of them where it's like you feel like you're not enough for your parents, but you can't explain that to your parents because then their parents are going to judge you. It's like though they love you, at times they feel like they'll be the last person to help you, but the first person to judge you. Much
Mm.
like everyone else in our community, they're going to judge you as well. So, let me ask you this. One, have you ever felt like you were comfortable enough to talk about your feelings to your parents, like deep feelings, number one. Number two, if you're not, then how do your feelings end up manifesting?
Mm.
Yeah. So with me, I think I talk about certain stuff with my parents.
Yeah.
So if it's maybe about my friend didn't invite me to something, my friend did something without me, that's something I would say. But when we're talking about like deeper things, like how I feel like I'm not enough, how I feel like there was a period of my life where I was genuinely really, really depressed, and it was during COVID. And I do think a lot of people were feeling that way during COVID just because it feels like you're trapped at home, which I
Mm.
mean, we had to quarantine. Like there was no way around it, but I was really going through it during that time, and I never really talked to my parents about it. And at this time was actually when there was news about a lot more people like doing suicide and, that kind of stuff. But I've never talked to my parents about really, really deep feelings about not feeling like I'm enough, or that I'm doing enough, or that people don't like me. Like, I've never actually talked about deep things like that. And I guess the way I get it out is I have one friend that I actually have a lot of friends where their parents are so chill. Like they choose to hang out with their parents every day, all day long. And which is crazy because that's like polar opposite. Like there are days where I want to be with my parents, but there are so many days where I'm just like, I just want to be alone in Athens. Like, sorry. I just want to be alone
Drop that.
in my
Drop
I want to
that.
be alone by myself in my room, just doing my own thing. I want to work by myself. I don't want to be around my family. Sometimes I don't even want to be around people.
Mhm.
And it's crazy to think that some people actually like that's all they want to do.
Well, mm, on that note, I'm going to ask you this. So in the book, the reason why um Julia might feel that way is for a plethora of reasons, one of them being because her mom is very like interrogating and kind of makes her feel guilty. Like it's exactly what's in here. I hate seeing her this way because it makes me feel so guilty. Guilty for existing, guilty that she has to work like that for us. And this is like the fact that her mom has to work
Mhm.
a very difficult job. And so it's like having to see that is hard. And you want to do what you can to help her, but at the same time, um it's very crushing. And then she goes, "How was school?" Emma asks, and kisses me on the cheek. Even when I'm punished, I'm convinced she doesn't love me anymore. She still kisses me on the cheek. It was okay. You look sick. Have you been eating junk at school? No. Are you lying to me? Emma always asks so many questions. I feel perpetually interrogated. I swear to God, I just ate a sandwich. I don't like the color on your face. She gets closer. What color? You look yellow. So it
Bro,
just goes on
that's
and
my
on and on.
mom.
That's your mom, right?
That's literally my mom.
And so it's like when you love your parents and your parents love you. That's what this interaction's about. You love your parents and your parents love you. They work hard for you and they are just asking questions because they're concerned about you, but at the same time,
We
it's
kind of think about it in a different way.
there's a point where you're gonna get annoyed.
Yeah,
That's
just like
natural.
stop
It's
asking me about it. Stop saying it every day. I'm like tired.
there's a point where when you
Where
get
you
around
feel
them,
like you want to be independent a little bit.
not only that, but like when you get around them, you just tense up.
Yeah, you like all those like things
You're
they
like,
point out. You're
it's like that
like the
moment where you're about to get punched and like
mm-hmm.
you just feel that little tense. That's what it feels like when I
Mm-hmm.
walk into the house and it's like, oh, what's about to happen right now? But yeah, sometimes they're not going to be the outlet where you can just relax and be yourself. You can't really be yourself around your parents. You can
Mm-hmm.
be yourself around your friends. And there are going to be days and weekends where that's what you want.
Right, yeah. I think that also sometimes it's hard. Like you feel pressure, like personally me, like I feel pressure. Some days is it's so much harder than other days, and I feel I'm not good enough, or I feel all this pressure, but sometimes I can't put it into words. Like I can't explain why I feel the way I feel it, but in my head, I know why I feel that way, but like
Yeah.
I also don't. It's like my thoughts are all jumbled up. And I can't really go and talk to people because I don't even know if one, what I'm saying makes sense. Two, if what I'm saying actually correlates to what I'm thinking in my head. So I think it's hard to do that, one. And two, I think that I've just grown up feeling like I can't go to my parents. So it's hard for me to suddenly open up 20 years later
Yeah.
about things that I've never, ever said to my parents. And sometimes some of the stuff, like, I haven't even said to my friends because it's so, like, I just feel some of my friends don't really talk about it. Like, it's not normal to talk about it. And then recently I got into journaling for that so that
Ooh.
I can think about my thoughts.
Oh.
I can think about my thoughts and then,
Yeah.
like, kind of like when I'm having harder days, like look at the good days and kind of talk about like this is gonna pass, like this is gonna go away. And I guess the reason that I really, really tried to like learn about how to manage my feelings is because 10th grade was COVID, right? When we were 10th grade,
Ninth,
Yeah.
ninth
ninth,
grade,
Ninth
ninth,
and
ninth
right.
grade.
So 10th grade, I was really, really going through it, like borderline suicidal. So
Mhm.
I that and then I like I know how I felt then and I just never want to get there. So I have been working on ways. I know I'm never gonna get away from feeling anxiety or like feeling really bad on certain days, but there are ways that I can cope with it, and journaling just helped. And I guess also going to college helped because you have like time away from your parents, time to be yourself, even if it's just a couple days of the week. It's so much compared to what we had when we were in high school and middle school and elementary school. And not to say that my parents were bad. In no way, shape, or form am I saying my parents are bad. My parents are also parents for the first time. Like they're also learning just like I'm learning. And I just
Say
think
that one more time.
she's gonna punch me in the face if I say it again. But I just think that
No, 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 I'm serious. No, like that was a really great point. Your parents are being parents for the first
right.
time.
And so I just think but as far as it goes to feelings, like it's so hard for me to open up now because it's so late in my life. Like I just can't
Yeah.
suddenly be like, open my heart and just talk about everything because there's so much to say. Like there is so many years of trauma, so many years. I don't know even where to begin. And if I drop something about how I'm feeling now, it's kind of like that makes no sense
Why wouldn't you
because
tell us then?
right, or it's also like that doesn't make sense because I didn't tell them 20 years worth of trauma for them to
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying right now or why I feel so deeply about something.
It's like, oh, I feel like I might have an eating disorder. What do you mean? And then it's like,
What
what?
it's also like what is an eating disorder? Like what
It's
do you
like,
mean?
well, do you have time? Once upon a time, at the age of 10, I I felt this way about my
Yeah.
body, and then it just goes
Right. But I also feel, sorry.
No,
I
you're good, you're
also
good.
feel
Miss
that
Parker.
in some ways, I am kind of grateful for the way my parents are, some ways, because it makes me feel that I am learning how to be better.
Yeah.
Like you see something from your parents and you know how you feel, and then it's kind of like when I have kids one day, or when I, like get married and like, live my life like independently, I know how I was treated in certain things. Like I'm sure like not all of our parents like they don't treat us bad in every aspect possible. Like,
no.
but it's like the stuff that we don't agree with or we think hurt us more than helped us. Those kind of things, like I kind of make a mental note of it. And when I grow up, or even now, I consistently try to make sure that those characteristics don't play a part in my life because I know how I felt dealing with that. And I don't, it's just like learning experience. So sometimes I'm grateful for the way they are because it helps me understand this is not what I want to do. I want to be better, but I mean, my parents are like I said, like our parents are also learning things for the first time and we can't expect them to be perfect. So it's kind of just about living through it,
Expecting them to be gracious with you, but also knowing you need to be gracious with them.
right?
So,
So I know Shemai's had a completely different experience.
yeah, I
Wait,
mean, like,
let me ask you. I'm gonna
yeah,
say this part.
so, yeah.
Hopefully that will
Okay.
help you in what you're about to say, but um in the book it also says, I love my parents, of course, and I feel guilty for wanting to leave them, but living here would be too hard. I need to grow and explore, and they won't let me. I feel like I'm being kept under a magnifying glass.
Wow.
I really
How
feel
does that
like
make you
you're on
feel?
one aspect, she's on one, sorry, not aspect, you're on one end of
I think
it.
we're all like you're one end, I'm
I'm in the middle.
Like that's what I'm feeling right
Like,
now.
where are you at? Like,
Okay.
how does this
She like
resonate?
wants to be with her mom all the time.
So
That's okay.
Yeah, that's
I
okay. Like I'm really glad. I'm really
that's
happy that you have experienced that. I'm really
and
glad
I'm
that
happy my mom is like that.
I'm
Like, you
also
know?
glad that we have not experienced the same thing because we have so much to learn and
Mm-hmm.
understand
I
about
mean,
each
I'm
other.
learning from you guys as well, like learning your experiences and like taking like because some of your experiences are similar to me, but like when it comes to like talking to my parents, like I feel like
You know,
yeah,
you say I want to be with my mom all the time. That's exactly how the oldest daughter was
she was.
before she died. She wanted to hang out with her mom all the time.
So maybe her mom was like that before, and then after
I
passed
mean,
on.
well,
What do
her
you think?
reasoning for wanting to be around her
What was
mom and
her?
her family all the time was for a completely different reason.
Oh, there's a reason in the book.
There's a whole backstory.
Oh, shoot. I'm trying to know.
Read it to find out at
But
Erica
and
L.
then
Sanchez.
you just continue what you're saying.
Oh, well, what I was saying is like I will go home and like I have these things like I'll literally come home from college and I'll go
Mhm.
like put my stuff upstairs,
Yeah.
like refresh whatever, and come down and I'll just like talk to my mom and I'll talk to her for like
Mhm.
2, 3 hours, okay? Whenever I'm feeling like anxious, I'll go to her, I'll tell her the issue, like I don't know what to do, like I feel like stress. 'Cause like my anxiety is like it's like weird, like it's like I haven't like I keep thinking about it. I have to tell myself like it's okay, it's fine, I'll be fine. But then it's just I can't like sleep sometimes. It's still a lot. So I'll go to her, like I'll talk about all my problems and she'll like reassure me, she'll tell me like solutions and that like helps me like pass through whatever I'm going through at that
So
point.
I have a
So
question for you. Have you always done that, or is that something that you've only recently started
Mm.
doing?
so I honestly like I hate to say this, but like ninth and 10th grade, like you know how you were going through it in quarantine, like ninth and 10th grade, I like did not want to be home. Like I wanted to get out as soon as possible. I don't know why. Like my parents were fine. They were just like on me all the time and I was like I just need like a break.
Mhm.
Whereas like later like 11th and 12th and I think after like going away from them and stuff and coming back like I feel like I didn't really open up to my mom at all until like 11th and 12th grade. I only started like talking to her about like issues I'm going through like socially, mentally, everything. And I feel like now I'm like in such a great place with like my parents, my family, like they're very open to hearing what is happening. They're like very reassuring to help me and like I'll just talk to her for like random stuff and like she'll like give me reactions like it's just like normal. Like
So
she's like
I
my friend,
right.
you know?
So I know that you said that you only recently opened up, like
Yeah.
recently as in 11th grade.
Yeah.
But have you always been close to your mom?
Yeah, I would say so.
So I think that
Yeah.
is also like a big difference. Like with me, I also have like crazy anxiety. Like not I mean, I don't want to say crazy, but I have a lot of anxiety when it comes to like pests. Like sometimes
Mm.
even like meeting people or
Yeah.
feeling sometimes I feel like when people invite me and I don't want to go because I have so much stuff to do, I feel anxiety because I'm like, what if they don't want to hang out with me anymore? Like
Yeah,
just because I didn't come,
yeah,
what if
yeah.
they're like they don't like me anymore? There's so much anxiety, but I'm so used to dealing with everything on my own that it's actually harder for me to go talk to my parents about it because one, I think my parents' view on it is like the stuff they'll say about it is very different than what my friends would say about it. And sometimes I feel like what they say about it can be right, but it doesn't apply to the how the world is now. Like I can't do some of the stuff that they say.
So, one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn is that sometimes your parents don't always know what's best for you because you're now charting waters that they've only dreamed of. So, does this resonate with you and how?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like there have been times when my parents themselves have been like weren't like I'm gonna use like pre-med as an example again, but they're
The
like
best example. Yeah.
we're not pre-med,
Yeah.
we're not doctors, and you're doing something that's great. But this is something you have to navigate on your own because we don't have an experience the stuff you're doing. We didn't go to college in America. We don't know what it is like to get a meal plan and then choose a dining hall you want to eat at. We don't know what it is like to have,
I mean, they don't know how classes work. Like they don't know it's a Monday,
right.
one's like block day
Like,
schedule.
yeah.
It, like
We
extracurriculars.
don't we didn't have the privilege of driving cars around campus. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't have, like it's just like and they say that to me all the time. They're like sometimes some of the stuff you do is we didn't experience it. So we you have to do some you're gonna have to do this stuff on your own. You're gonna have to learn on your own, which I'm actually really grateful that they say that
Not
because it's
every
like,
parent reacts like that. Like the way that you.
We need to hear yours
yeah,
first.
we need to hear
Yeah.
yours because I
Oh,
think do you
ours is
agree?
like
Yeah,
very similar.
so
Yeah.
I mean my parents say that, but I do think that sometimes I think this is personally just out of love and like overprotection, but sometimes they say that, but it's hard for them to let go of my hand and kind of experience things on my own without them interfering and everything. Like there's sometimes I don't know, it's just sometimes there's some stuff that they will say to me, which in the past they have said like we haven't experienced this. We want you to experience it, and then they'll come and butt in, but it's like, you know.
Um, with my parents, it's just so it's it goes back to that cruel, funny irony where it's like my parents think that I know everything, and I think that my parents think they know everything, when in reality, neither of us know anything.
Right.
That's the truth. Like your parents are just like, okay, so we haven't been here, we don't know what this is like, so we're gonna let you figure it out. When it came to applying for colleges, when it came to living my life out here in college, when it came to
Yeah.
getting a job, when it came to doing anything in healthcare, when it came to being a pre-med, when it came to anything, like they pretended like they knew.
Mm.
And they would go based off of what other people have told them and then tell me as if they knew for sure that was my solution and my journey and that's exactly what I have to do because if they did it and they were successful, then that is the only way to success and you got to do it exactly
But
like
each
them.
person has their different process.
Yeah.
Everyone is different.
I think
Everyone has a
And
different
so
journey.
for example, they were like, oh, you got to get your SAT scores up because that's the only way that you're going to get into college because that's all they care about is your SAT scores. When in reality, not really the case.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by like when I was in HOSA, they weren't supportive of it because that's a distraction. That's not going to get into UGA. Your SAT will get into UGA. When in reality, it was kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Me, oh, a college finding out that I actually cared more about the betterment of my other fellow students rather than a test
Yeah,
score.
yeah.
How crazy.
Which
It's
is
like,
exactly why like I think med schools are very good on that because they want to see you make an impact in your community. Yeah, they expect a lot from you. They want this, 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 this. But if you truly show that passion you have, like I feel like
You'll do it.
yeah, I feel like they can kind of be like, wow, I can see this person like
it goes back to helping people is at the
yes.
bottom of the list of reasons. It's
For our
like
parents,
for our parents.
not for
Because
med
Not for like med schools
schools.
because they're making
I
those future doctors. They want that to be the top,
that is my top reason. That's the whole
but
reason
they
why
don't
I'm doing
understand that
this.
because
I'm not just I'm
yeah.
doing this. This is so people pleaser of me. But
Make your
it's
parents
like
proud.
I'm doing this to make my parents proud. I'm doing this to make future patients proud. They're like, okay, that's my doctor. I want her to be my doctor
Yeah.
because I know that at the end of the day, she will do everything in her power to help me. I want, like, it's that clear sense of I feel safe when I'm with this person. I feel like I can depend on this person. I want to get that from my family. I want to get that from my patients. I want to get
Yeah.
that from anybody that I try to help. And that's, you can't please everyone. And that's the hard part of that lesson where it's like sometimes your parents don't always know what's best for you. And
Mhm.
that's with everything. That's with who you choose to spend your time with. That's with the career that you choose. That's with me being vegan. They were not happy about that whatsoever, even though I didn't really have a choice. And they have never been a vegan ever. But they're
Can
telling me,
I ask
I
a
have a
personal
yeah.
question? Yeah. Do they know about your medical
I was
condition?
literally about to ask the
oh
same question.
yeah, no, they
Okay.
know.
And the doctor
Yes.
recommends to go
And
vegan,
the
correct?
doctor was like, yeah, go vegan. And so it's like,
So what were your parents like? I'm
They're just
confused at
gonna
why
give
they're
you
getting upset about with you about.
well, we come from a heavily meat eating household. So like
okay.
we are little context. I am a Malayali Christian, and so we don't, yeah.
You eat red meat,
We
right?
like we don't like
Okay, okay, okay.
specifically cut ourselves off because of that religion and that ethnicity, or that background. I'm grateful to not really have much of a
Restrictions, yeah,
restriction
yeah,
in the beginning of my life where I could eat whatever I wanted, and that's exactly how they live their lives. But then once I got a restriction, they couldn't understand that. And so they're over here trying to give me advice on
About
what it's
something they don't
like
know.
about something they don't know. And instead of asking other vegans or going online or doing X, Y, and Z, I'm just gonna pretend like I know because they probably feel bad. They feel real bad that like that's my child. I should help them. That's my job as a parent is to help them in the best way I can. I can't just tell them I don't know.
Mhm.
I gotta give them something. And
Yeah,
that's out of love.
yeah.
You know my take on this? I truly believe that our parents, not just our parents, like our community of
Mhm.
parents, they just don't know how to talk about their emotions, so they don't know how to react when they have emotions.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
And
And that's why sometimes
yeah,
we think they're doing something bad, but not bad, but like they're doing something to restrict us or like not let us do something. But in their head, it's out of they're trying to protect us. But they're so bad at projecting that emotion that it just comes out in like a whole different thing.
at the end of the day, life life is complicated. It's hard and it's multifaceted with so many different purposes and meanings. And whether you listen to your parents or not, it goes back to those cruel ironies where you your parents spend their lives trying to make it easier for you while leaving you with more confusion and conflict in the
Mhm.
process.
That was a great way to end our podcast. I actually loved this episode because as much as we think we know each other, I have learned so much about you guys that I just was like, wow.
Like a deeper, it was like a good
And
like therapy
the
session.
thing that's crazy is I've known both of them for years.
Yeah.
Like it's not like we just met here in college or something. We have known each other for so long, and it's crazy that we're just learning so much about each other now. But we actually did have a lot more topics to talk about in this podcast, but it ran long
Yeah.
and still
Stay
great.
tuned for part two.
It's so great though because we talked about a lot of good content. But Stay tuned for part two. And I just want to remind everyone this is a very, very casual podcast. Like, we love to hear suggestions, and we're like a family. Like, we can all talk about things that relate to us, whatever you want us to talk about. If you want to leave it in the comments or DM us, like whatever it is, and we would love to talk about it. But stay tuned for part two, and
Yeah.
we will finish everything in part two. Bye, guys.
Bye.